Hi guys! In today's video, I want to do a very similar video that I did a while back on my channel and discuss the top 10 best moments of a character. And today, I really want to talk about Rand al'Thor from The Wheel of Time. If you guys have checked out my last video where I talked about the best moments of Matt Cawthon, you know I struggled. Well, with Rand I had an even harder time of boiling them down and actually choosing just 10 moments with a bunch of honorable mentions, but still just 10 moments. Like, the guy has so many great moments, grand moments, or just like small intimate ones. So if you guys, obviously I will not be having all of them, but if you think like I should have really had one of them, let me know in the comments below. And also let me know what your favorite Rand moments are, because I really like talking with you guys. And yeah, I'm super excited, so let's get into it. So at number 10, we have Rand reviving. Okay, we're starting on a bleak note, but at number 10, we have Rand trying to revive the little girl after the attack on the Stone of Tear. So to give you guys a little bit of context, the Stone of Tear has been attacked by a bunch of shadow spawn, and Rand has been fighting, and at the end of the fight he finds this little girl that obviously is not okay at all, and he tries with the one power to revive her, and you cannot bring people back from the dead. And he really realizes that even though he's the Dragon Reborn, even though he's the savior of the world, he cannot do it all, and it's an incredibly heartbreaking moment. I really love that it shows that Rand is an amazing Dragon Reborn because he truly values each individual life. He really cares for every single person that fights with him and helps him save the world. Like, even though he is the main character, he really understands how important every single person around him and every single person fighting for the good is. And that moment really sums it up, and him facing the fact that he will never be able to do it all. He will have to face loss, and it's a motif that constantly repeats itself throughout every single Dragon Reborn that has been. And seeing Rand live that moment is not good, but it's great for character development. Not good for my heart, but great for the character, I guess. And also, I really loved the fact that Jordan really utilizes that moment and sets up our understanding of how much the Dragon Reborn can do when at the end of that book, Matt is hanged, and you already know that if it's a done deal, Rand cannot help him. So the stakes are even higher, because maybe if we wouldn't have had that scene with the little girl, we would have expected Rand to do it all and save Matt. But you already know, and you can see the trauma building up in Rand because he has already lived through that. And seeing Matt in that situation, it's incredibly horrendous and tragic and heartbreaking and everything that is bad. But also, it comes out of nowhere. Like, we've been fighting Trollocs, very bad things have been happening, but that moment is just so bleak. And yeah, it's just great moment, I guess. At number 9, per usual, at number 9, I usually cheat on my lists. Apparently, it's something that's reoccurring in my top 10 best moments. But at number 9, we have Rand interacting with other people, basically the people that are considered to be his mentors. And when I say that, Moiraine definitely comes to mind, and I absolutely relished seeing his relationship with her basically evolve throughout the books and the series. I really loved witnessing how important Moiraine has become for Rand, even though she hasn't been present. Like, in a lot of the series, she hasn't been present, but she really has left an impact on Rand. Jordan really does, obviously, does an astounding job where he takes a character for a bunch of books, and even though that character, for me, it felt like Moiraine was missing for more than half of the series, so we didn't get a lot of them from Moiraine. Maybe that was me just wanting more of Moraine's character because she's really one of the best characters in the Wheel of Time. But even though she wasn't as present as all the other people that interacted with Rand. She was so great in what she did for Rand at the beginning of the series that those lessons and those principles really stuck in with him, and every single decision that he makes and everything that he has to go through, he thinks about Moraine and what would Moraine do and how would she deal with the situation. Also, it was incredibly satisfying when they reunited to realize and see, actually witness Rand be so overwhelmed by Moraine, in the sense that you get to see how much of a mark she left on him and how he started to actually appreciate her in the time that he wasn't with her. And then we have Rand and Lan for a bit, and that was great. And the last person that Rand interacts with and I really loved is Tam. Obviously, Rand's father has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, impact on his character and his way of thinking, his way of meditating through very stressful situations that he constantly finds himself in. And I absolutely adored seeing him. I don't know if it was the Gathering Storm or Terrors of Midnight, but when he finally reunites with Tam and they have that confrontation and he goes off on Dragonmount and he has this whole resolution, and then he comes back and he starts crying, and there's a line of like, the Dragon Reborn started crying in his father's arms. It was it was such a great scene. It really shows how great of a father Tam Althor is. Like, that whole Dragonmount moment of realization for Rand is all due to Tam. And he really is a great character, even though he appears for such a little time. On the 8th spot, we have Rand. On the 8th spot, we have Rand, and another sad moment. We have Rand dealing with the whole Fedwin Moore situation. To give you guys a little backstory to this situation as well, in case you haven't read the story. If you haven't read the story, the series, it's a story. So basically, Rand built this black tower that trains male channelers, and they're called Ashaman. And he uses Ashamans in all different ways, like to be messengers, to fight with him, and everything that basically an Aes Sedai does. And in this book, I don't know what book, but Rand is betrayed by a bunch of Ashamans and they attack him, and he tries to fight them off, but he sends Fedwin Moore with Min, who is his girlfriend, to protect her and just get away from the situation while he basically deals with the traitors. And when he gets back to Min eventually, he finds out that Fedwin has been tainted so much by Saidin that he eventually went mad, and he basically is a child. Like, when he finds him, he's building blocks of like a castle. It's incredibly sad. It really broke my heart, because you get to see Fedwin throughout the series, and you get to see him fight with Rand at Dumai Wells, which is an incredible battle scene, and you get to see him help Rand, and then seeing him unable to do anything and being basically like a child and laughing at nothing and building like little castles of wood is absolutely heartbreaking. And then the leader of the Ashaman goes there to meet up with Rand, sees Fedwin, and he's like, okay, I'll take him and I'll deal with him. But Rand says no, and he gives him a special tea. It's such a hard scene to read. I wasn't expecting it yet again, but I really love this scene as well, because of the tragic factor, I guess, but because it really shows how much Rand cares about every single person that is with him and that sides with him, because he could have just not care. It was just another soldier, and it was just another person that maybe he wouldn't even know their name, but he goes to the effort of getting to know them, getting to know their names, and being with them in the most critical moments of their lives as well. And it just shows how great of a character Rand is. He, at the end of the day, will still care for the people around him. He will still have time to like comfort every single person that is in need. And that's just Rand, I guess, and I love it. At number 7, for something a little more lighthearted, we have Rand at the Battle of Falme. I always seem to come back to The Great Hunt, the second book in the Wheel of Time series. And that's basically because that book is the first book that I feel like has the most Jordan-esque feel. And not necessarily the most, but that's the first one that has it the most. And oh, it's such a great book. And especially for the ending. Seeing Rand be the Dragon Reborn, the Lord of Light, and fight in the skies, it was so dramatic. I don't really have much to say about this moment, just the fact that everybody that was fighting there at some point took a breather to look at Rand in the skies fighting. It was such a jaw-dropping moment, and you cannot forget it was very Messiah-like, it was very prophetic, and people started like painting that moment so you can recognize the Dragon Reborn. So basically that's the moment that he accepted, in a sense, that he was the Lord of Light, and it was just great. The fact that he was fighting in the skies, it was wow, over the top, but in a good sense. So yeah, I don't have much to say. Everybody loves this moment. It's just astoundingly good. Did I say that right? Astoundingly good. I'm gonna say that. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully. At number 6, we have Rand and Rudian. I truly did not expect Shadow Rising to be the book that it is. It truly changes your perspective on the whole world of the Wheel of Time. I started to, at that point, get used to how everything worked. I started really understanding the magic system and the factions and just the Aes Sedai and everybody in that world. But then you're turned on your head. Rand goes to the Aiel Waste, and it was such an interesting ride. The way Jordan writes cultures, the way Jordan writes civilizations and different peoples and traditions and everything feels so incredibly unique and so incredibly real. I absolutely adored getting to actually explore the Aiel, because by that point they were just... You got to meet them, you got to find like little hints of their culture and their like way of being, but you didn't get to experience it firsthand. But then Rand decides to go there and you get to see how everything works, and it's so interesting. But the whole scene of Rand and Rudian and going through the twisted doors and seeing the past of the Aiel was one of the best written scenes that I've ever read in my entire life. It was so complex and it was so interesting, the time jump and how the mystery wow, I cannot speak today and how the mystery slowly was revealed to us. Incredibly great, and the twist itself was absolutely great, that the Aiel used to follow the way of the leaf. Great. Wow. But yeah, it was just Rand taking up their traditions and accomplishing those prophecies, because you're told of the prophecies of the people from the West, but seeing the prophecies of the Aiel Waste come to fruition, but seeing the prophecies of the people of the Aiel come to fruition and seeing Rand become their leader and how he slowly gains their trust is such an interesting experience to read about. Seeing Rand trying to make them like him is so funny as well. The whole clash of cultures and how they don't understand each other, the like things that are lost in translation, is absolutely funny. But yeah, the whole thing with Rand there is one of my favorite moments of his. At number 5, we have Rand taking Kalandor. And obviously, this moment stuck out to me because, in my opinion, that's the moment where he comes to he accepts the fact that he has to do this. He accepts the fact that he's the chosen one and he will either save the world or break it. But the whole scene of him taking Kalandor and fighting with it, and then people, after the fight, people seeing him with it and being like, Rand al'Thor, he's the Dragon Reborn, gives me goosebumps. It was an extraordinary scene because you get to see people's reaction firsthand to discovering that he's the Dragon Reborn, because they've been waiting for him. They want him to come.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
But that means that they have to fight in the last battle, so they're also terrified of him. I just absolutely love that those people have to like come to that conclusion and they still like take him up on it. And just him as well, like him accepting his fate, accepting that he has to do this, accepting that he might be the savior or he might end the whole world is horrendous. But I do love that it took us a long time, like 3 books, for him to do that, not in an instant. There was a lot of thought process and a lot of, okay, I'm accepting this because that's natural. But yeah, for me, that moment is the moment that he truly became the Dragon Reborn. Even though he had a lot of things to learn in the later books, that was the moment where you're like, okay, that's a done deal. He is that. Let's start prepping for the last battle now. So yeah, that's an absolutely great moment for him. At number 4, we have Rand and Lu's Thurin Thilamon. This is not necessarily a moment, but this is just the whole idea of having someone in your brain constantly nagging you and talking to you and giving you advice or just disrupting your peace of mind, and how he deals with it. I just absolutely adored the way Rand and Lewis interacted and the moments at which they interacted, because Lewis wasn't always there. Like, he wasn't a constant presence with Rand, but I just loved seeing how well they bounced off each other and the juxtapositions that they were put in, and how basically Luz influenced Rand in a very bad way, but also in an incredibly good way. There's not much to tell. I really liked that scene where Rand is being attacked in that castle that he was staying at, and Logain is with him. Luz is telling him that he needs to make the weaves, and Rand was just gripping on the windowsill. He realizes that Luz is telling him to give him control of the arms, like stop gripping the windowsill so he can do the moves that he needed to do in order to like create those gateways. But I do really love that Luz was there because it added a lot to Rand. We found out a lot about Rand and Luz as well because of that constant bickering that they had going on, and it's just great. I don't have much to say about it, just that I loved it. I'm really happy that it exists in the Wheel of Time. I don't know, I'm rambling. I like it. I just like it. At number 3, we have Rand saving Iturralde from the Battle of Marathon. Wow, what a scene. This scene, in my opinion, it could have been great, but it wouldn't have been as great as it is if we wouldn't have had so many pages of this amazing general, one of the best generals in the Wheel of Time universe, Iturralde, fight and struggle to win, or maybe just even hold back the Trollocs. So to give you guys a little bit of context, he is in the northernmost part of the map, from where basically the Trollocs usually attack, and he is in a little fortification that cannot withhold the number of Trollocs that are coming and charging at his army. His army is substantially smaller, but he is such an ingenious general, and he has so many insanely creative ideas that he knows when to push and what to do in order to like fight smartly and have a chance of pushing them back and winning the other guys in the north part, in the borderlands, time to like gear up and protect themselves, because he knows that he won't be able to win this fight. So everything that he's trying to do is just to hold him back for a long enough time that the other guys have time to prepare and not get wiped out. So you are, as a reader, starting to face the fact that they're going to lose. It was incredibly thrilling to read. Like, I was on the edge of my seat, I was flying through those pages. But then comes Rand al'Thor. So Rand comes there when they're literally in the moment of getting defeated. And that's not even the best part. The way that he fights against this Trolloc. So Iturralde had 2 or 3 Ashaman, I think. I hope I'm not wrong. I hope I'm not right. Okay, I'm setting up myself for failure. But he had a few Ashamans with him, and you can constantly see throughout the battle how he uses them, and that they are not invincible. They have to take breaks and they have to like recharge, and they cannot wipe out the whole army of Trollocs just on their own. But then comes the Dragon Reborn, and he uses gateways in a way that he opens and closes them and throws them in the battlefield, and they are basically slicing every little Trolloc out there. I'm the type of reader, and I think everybody is. It's not something that is not common with readers, but I do love indirect characterizations for the characters that I'm reading about. So seeing people be astounded by how cool a character is way better than being told by the character that I'm the coolest, I am the best assassin out there. Like, it's way better to see an actual male channeler be stunned by how powerful, and even like it's not something that wow, he's so powerful. There's a slight tone of I'm scared, like I should be a bit scared of this person because he's so powerful. And that's just incredible character building on Jordan's behalf, and that scene stuck with me. He's, as always, doing the great thing of saving everyone and doing everything, but also showing us how powerful he can be. And I don't know, it's just I really have to give props to authors that understand the fact that fight scenes and battle scenes and war scenes can be so greatly used to truly describe your character's skills and abilities, and Jordan does that. Jordan does that throughout the series, and this scene as well it just shines, and you can see how much of a badass basically Rand is. So at number 2, we have Rand in a box. This whole sequence from him being in a box and the Dumai Wells battle is one of the most horrendous moments in the Wheel of Time. There are a lot of gory moments, there are a lot of very heartbreaking moments, but this for me stuck out because it's so psychologically driven for Rand. He is stuck in that box with no light and just a madman in his brain rambling at him constantly, and he's alone for a long time. He gets I think he gets tortured by the Aes Sedai. I don't really remember.
Kind of forgot about.
It's just such a brutal moment, and seeing him trying to cling to that sanity and deal with Luz, because this is the first time that he cannot avoid that guy because there's just him or the darkness. Just seeing him try to escape from the box, and at the moment that he is able to, he finds himself in the midst of the goriest battle in the Wheel of Time, Dumai Wells. It's just astounding that he was able to snap back into the role of the leader of the Dragon Reborn. Just he escapes from being in that box and total darkness. That's the moment where Rand starts not to trust anybody, like really not trust and become paranoid, and that's the whole era of him being very closed off, and I love that era of him. You actually start to get uncertain of him, like, is he still the good guy? Is he doing way too many bad things that the good things that he's doing no longer like own up to that? I absolutely adored it. I loved seeing his shift in perspective, even though he went through some horrific stuff in that box. I absolutely adored that scene, and the battle scene as well with the whole Ashaman kill line. It wasn't his, but still incredibly astounding, and those Aes Sedai kneeling for him, just another line that wasn't his but still. And also it's written so well. So before we get to my number 1 moment of Rand's, I want to give you guys a bunch of honorable mentions. I will not be getting into them because I talk for way too long, but these are a few honorable mentions. So we have Rand cleansing Saidin. We have Rand using, I don't know why I'm smiling when I'm talking about this next one, but Rand using Kalandor on the Sanchan, and the whole thing, the whole repercussion thing that came out of this situation. We have Rand's joke. I know. It's a bit of an odd one, but I do really like the farmer who. I found that joke funny. I don't know if many of other you guys found it funny, or I have a poor taste in jokes, but it was so funny, especially because of the way the Aiel reacted to it and how awkward it became for Rand instantly. He was like, yeah, I got a good joke for you guys. I'm going to make all of you laugh. And then there were crickets. And last but not least, we have the Crown of Swords, and that moment of him picking up the laurel crown and putting it on his head while I think he was sitting on the throne, and it's like jamming him and little beads of blood like going off of it and becoming a Crown of Swords, was such an impressive moment. So at number 1, without further ado, my all-time favorite moment of Rand is Veins of Gold. If you have read the series, you know exactly the chapter that I'm referring to, and it's the best chapter, in my opinion, of the whole Wheel of Time. So, Rand's character arc is the most complex and beautiful and intricate and interesting arc that I've ever read, character arc that I've ever read. It's an incredibly wild ride. He goes through a lot. Like, he has a lot of burden on his shoulders because the guy has to save the world, so it's not going to be an easy task. And you get to experience it with him. You get to read everything that he goes through, no matter how horrific. And you know that he's just a farm boy. You know that he had a very easy and beautiful life. But then he gets railed in by But then he gets drawn in by fate and by destiny, by the Wheel of Time, and he has to save the world. He is the Lord of the Morning, and everything boils down to this moment in Veins of Gold. Rand, by this point, has been through everything that I've mentioned in this list. He has been through the tortures of the box. He has been dealing with lose. He has been dealing with losing people that he cares about a lot, or even people that maybe he didn't even know their names, but they matter to him because they're fighting alongside him. All these trials and tribulations, every single betrayal and every single win has led up to Rand becoming this very closed off character, this very hard to bend character, and he believes at this point that he needs to be just a weapon in order to defeat the Dark One, because otherwise he has weak spots and they can be used against him. So he gets incredibly closed off, he gets incredibly lonely and isolates himself, and he isn't the Rand that we started the series with. And at this point where you get to the Veins of Gold, he truly is, from the reader's perspective, questionable, because he has done bad things that you cannot even rationalize at this point. So you don't even know if he maybe has gone off so much and he has been tainted by the One Power so much that he just gave up. He is basically crazy and the world is no longer safe with him. He will basically break it. And he has this whole confrontation with his father, and he storms off to Dragon Mount to channel as much power, One Power, as possible and break the world. He doesn't believe that they can be saved, and he channels and even more. And then he has this whole thing with Luz. Luz starts talking to him, and in this incredibly beautiful moment, Rand realizes why he has to constantly suffer and constantly be spun by the wheel and be the dragon and die again for the better of the people. And that is because they have to live again to love again. And it's such a great moment, and it truly reels back to Rand being taught by his father, because if Tam wasn't his father, I don't think that we would have had this great moment, because Rand wouldn't have been the incredible man that he is. But it's just such a great moment, and after that he becomes the Dragon Reborn that the people need. Everything heals where he goes, and there's a beautiful chapter, Apple's First, where he revives a whole orchard for a farmer that is starving. But yeah, after that breaking point, he realizes what his mission is, he realizes what he has to do, and he suddenly doesn't feel the pressure that he felt and doesn't feel the need to destroy the world. And in retrospect, when you think about that scene, is so much more suspenseful, because you do realize that his plan was to destroy the whole world, and he just stopped because he realized that the compromise that fate has put on his shoulders again and again and again is worth it for every single person that he loves, because they get to be reborn again if he fights for them. And I just absolutely adore it. It's an incredible moment. It's incredibly emotional. On my behalf, I cried a lot reading that, but it was just the perfect culmination for the whole arc of his, because in my opinion that's kind of where his development as a character kind of stops, and he is prepared mentally and physically for the last battle. But it wraps up his whole arc so well, and you really are satisfied with reading this whole series because you get such an interesting character. But I absolutely adored being on this journey with Rand and seeing him change and evolve in worse ways and better ways. And that moment really concludes his evolution as a character and his whole arc. And it's the absolute perfect moment. Like, I couldn't have asked for anything better for Rand, and Robert Jordan truly delivered with that moment. It's not even Rand al'Thor's best moment. It might be one of the best moments in the whole Wheel of Time series, because it's so worth it, and it's so satisfying as a reader to have such a great scene, an incredible scene in your series. So these are my top 10 moments of Rand, and I'm really curious to see what your guys' favorite moments are. Let me know in the comments below, and I cannot wait to catch you guys next time. Bye!